Hello, students of Senior 3 Biology class. I'm Scovia, your biology teacher as usual. As we had started in the previous lesson, talking about the effects of human activities on ecosystem, all right? The effects of human activities on ecosystem, but remember there is two. I told you that we have also the effects of human activities on ecosystem, but we find there is one. So there is a difference, as I told you in the previous lesson, that when the first unit, that is unit 4, we were just emphasizing on the negative effects of human activities on ecosystem, all right? But today, for today's lesson, we are emphasizing on the conservation and sustainability, the positive effects of man's activity on ecosystem, all right? To remind ourselves, what is ecosystem? What does the word ecosystem mean as the key term in the unit, all right? So ecosystem, it is the organism in the community and how they interact with their environment. Organisms in the community and how they interact with their environment, all right? So for today's lesson, which is lesson 3, we are going to emphasize or to look at the conservation of endangered species. Conservation of endangered species. So what are the endangered species? When we talk of endangered species, we are referring to those both plants and animals, all right? Both plant and animals. Most of the times you find that they emphasize on animals, but also plants can be in danger, all right? So those are plants and animals which are likely to get extinct. So we need to preserve them, we need to protect them, we need to conserve them, all right? So you're going to look at the conservation of endangered species. Hope the word endangered species is clear. So today's objective, or by the end of this lesson, every learner will be able to explain how organisms become endangered or extinct and describe how endangered species can be conserved, all right? How organisms become endangered or extinct. How organisms can get extinct. You find today we had like in years back, animals that we had here in Rwanda, you cannot get them by today. What happened? They got extinct. They all finished, all right? So we need to see how we can conserve the ones we have that are in danger today. We don't only talk about animals, but we also talk about plants. There are some species of plants that got extinct. So we need to preserve those that are also in danger, all right? So by the end of this lesson, every learner will be able to explain how animals and plants get extinct and how we can conserve those that are in danger, all right? Good. So let's continue and look at the introduction. The introduction of today's lesson. We're saying that endangered species are both plants and animals, all right? But most of the times, people put emphasis on animals, as I said before. Why? Why do people put emphasis on animals? It's because animals disappear much faster than plants. That's why normally the emphasis is put on animals, because animals normally get extinct very fast than plants. So an organism becomes endangered when it's likely to become extinct. Therefore, all countries in the world are required to conserve the endangered species. This is not only the work of one country. No. One country cannot control all the animals or plants that are in danger. So it's the role of all countries in the world to stand up and try to conserve or try to protect organisms, that is both plants and animals, that are in danger. All right? So what causes extinction of organisms? Who can try to give the causes of extinction of organisms? That is plants and animals. What do you think can lead to the extinction of organisms in the community or in the ecosystem? Yes, so we have both natural and man-made or natural and man activities that lead to extinction of organisms. We'll start looking at the natural causes. One, the rapid changes in temperatures and climate that affects organisms. So when the temperature varies or when the temperature goes on increasing and decreasing, there are organisms which are supposed to live in certain temperature, both aquatic and terrestrial animals. So in case the temperatures in water or on land increases at a higher rate, you find some animals are affected, and at the end of the day, you find that they have died and get finished. So that's one natural cause of these organisms being extinct, all right? Another natural cause can be the changes in sea level or water currents, all right? When the changes in water currents and sea level happens, you find aquatic organisms get affected. Another natural cause of the extinction of organisms, the acidic rain. Remember in the previous lesson, we talked how, or we learned how this acidic rain is formed. I think you remember what we said. We said normally acidic rain is formed when you burn these materials you use at home, at school, hospitals, everywhere. You burn them, then they release carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide in the atmosphere. And at the end of the day, when carbon monoxide, remember, when carbon dioxide reacts with water, to form carbonic acid. So when that carbonic acid comes in water or in water droplets, we call that one acidic rain, all right? The acidic rain is very dangerous. I remind you that yesterday or the other previous lesson, we talked of the dangers of acidic rain. We said that the acidic rain can cause the skin cancer. It can cause the damage or the destruction of houses that are made of marble trees, all right? So there are different things that this acidic rain can cause. And you find that even those animals, in case there is acidic rain, when there is a formation of this acidic rain, you find that animals are disturbed, all right? They can be both on land and in water. So this increase of the acidity can be also the increase of the acidity of the soil. When there is a change in the pH of the soil. Remember, when we talk of the pH, we refer to the acidity and alkalinity of the soil, all right? So in case there is change of the, in the acidity of the soil, those organisms are disturbed, all right? And they can end up getting finished. That is also among the natural causes. Another natural cause of organisms to get extinct, diseases and epidemics. Yeah, that is obvious. Remember, we are now in this corona situation. So you find people are dying now and again, all right? So that one can lead to distinction of a certain species. You can find by the end of the day, the human beings are extinct. We no longer have people in the world. What happened? Diseases. All right? So there are serious diseases that may come in, and you find that a certain species attacked, and at the end of the day, you find it has died off. All right? That is also a natural cause of organism to become extinct. Hope everybody understands what we are saying. So another natural cause can be invasive species that invade foreign territory. What does it mean? It means there are some species that can come and occupy a certain area whereby you find that those that have been in that area are going to compete with those new species for what? One, they're going to compete for, they can compete for oxygen, they can compete for light, they can compete for different things, and food and whatever. So you find there is what we call survival for the fittest, all right? The survival for the fittest starts, and you find that those which are not capable of struggling in that harsh condition, they die off. And after some years, you find we don't have them in existence, all right? So those are some of the causes of natural extinction of organisms, all right? So we can also look at the human, who can try to tell us some of the human activities that can lead to extinction of organisms. When we say organisms, we refer to both plants and animals, all right? Good. So one is uncontrolled population increase. If there is a rapid increase in population, problems will arise. Food shortage, diseases, all those things may lead to extinction of certain group of species. Another thing is destruction and fragmentation of habitats. So you find now and again the area is being cleared for farming, is being cleared as for livestock activities, and plants are all cleared down. By the end of the day, there are certain species which can get extinct in that way, right? That is man's activity. Pollution of the environment, I said, when you try to ban, when you try to introduce those harmful substances in the atmosphere which may lead to global warming and greenhouse effect, organisms, both plants and animals, will be affected, all right? So you should not continue banning, introducing those harmful substances in the atmosphere so that you don't cause or you don't be among those that causes the extinction of some organism. Climate change and global warming, as I've said, the introduction of those greenhouse gases, the carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, all of those, when they reach in the atmosphere, you find that they have destroyed or they have led to global warming, whereby that increased temperature will come and affect organisms on the Earth's surface, all right? Yeah, so look at some of the activities done by man on the screen. Look at some of the activities done by man which affects the extinction or which leads to extinction of some of the organisms. Here we are emphasizing on the plant, deforestation. Here, you see this forest, it was a very big forest, but all the plants are cut down by the carpenters, and at the end of the day, you find some species have been affected, all right? So what did we say yesterday? In the previous lesson, we said that cut one tree, plant 2 trees. That is, that is what the government is emphasizing. When you cut one tree, you need to plant 2. But look at that diagram here. Look at the picture. All the trees are down. There is no replacement, which is bad. So some trees, some plants there, some species are going to extinct. That is man's activities, all right? So why do we need to conserve? Why do we need to conserve these animals, these plants that are in danger? Why is it that the government is emphasizing on protecting, on conserving some organisms and plants, all right? These are some of the reasons. So one, to maintain the future possibility that plant species might be identified for medical or medicinal value. So it's these plants that we get medicine. In case you find that certain species that is extinct, you may fail to get some medicines in the future. Therefore, we need to conserve these species such that, mainly the plant species, such that we get medicines in the future, all right? To keep damage to food chain, we need to keep the food chain and food web in maximum or in its continuation situation, all right? So we know the food web and food chain. It's the food web and food chain that keeps life continuing, all right? So in case a certain species is killed or is dead, you find there is a break in the food chain and food web, all right? Let's say the primary producers are cut. Those are plants. We don't have the primary producers. Where will we get food? Nowhere. So we need to conserve the trees mainly here because there are the producers. There are the ones, these green plants, they are the ones that provide us food. Not only people, but also other living organisms. The plants, remember, they are the ones that we call autotrophic. They have autotrophic nutrition. They have the capacity of making their own food. Therefore, you need to conserve them. If you don't conserve them, they will get extinct, and the food chain will just stop, all right? So there is a need to conserve these animals and plants such that we don't break the food chain and food web, all right? So we need to protect our future food supply. Let's say there is destruction of the plants. There's destruction of animals, some animals. So in future, we'll find that there is a need for food, all right? So you need to prevent those people that are trying to distract or that are trying to kill animals, to cut out plants of which will be needed in future as food. So those are some of the reasons that we need to conserve the animals, both animals and plants that are in danger, all right? Good. So what are some of the measures? We have looked at the reasons why we need to conserve these animals and plants that are in danger. So how are we going to conserve them? What are the measures that are put out by the government, by the world? As I said, it is not only the role of one country, no. It's the role of the whole world to conserve and protect animals and plants that are in danger. So what measures that were put out by the government, specifically the government of Rwanda, to control or to conserve organisms that are in danger? That's what we're seeing here. So we are saying that, one, there are many. One, there is monitoring and protecting species and habitats, all right? So the government put out some important tools on how to protect organisms that are in danger, all right? And these organisms that are in danger, they are put in one area and monitored from there and protected by different guards such that they cannot be tackled by the people around, all right? So that is one measure that the government put forward, that they have to protect, they keep monitoring their habitats so that nobody can come out and try to kill or cut out those plants and animals that are in danger. So they collect those plants, they collect those animals that they feel that are in danger, that they feel they are going to get extinct, gather them in one area, start to monitor them and protect them from those that can come, the poachers and whatever, to attack them. That is one measure. So another measure that the government put forward, that is education program. So the government, the public can be educated through the following methods. So the government said, let us educate the citizens, because it is with the citizens that try to attack these plants and animals that are in danger. So we need to be educated. We need to know the role. We need to know the importance of these animals, the importance of these species of which we are trying to kill and to cut down. So there are some measures under education program that the government put forward so that every citizen get to know, you know what, these organisms, these plants and animals need to be preserved, need to be conserved. So the government put out these measures. One, there is distribution of information packets or flyers. So there are some papers that they go on supplying so that when you read the importances and the reasons why to conserve the organism, you get know that it is of use to protect these and conserve these organisms and plants that are in danger. Another thing is contacting local schools and organize education sessions for pupils. So debates can be conducted. You can go to schools, specifically those that are near the areas where these organisms are put, which are specifically in danger. So you go to schools, nearby schools, and try to educate and try to tell the students how to protect them, how to conserve them, and the reasons and the importances. All right? So the government tries to sensitize or to bring that education through schools. So advertisement in newspapers and regional newsletters. So there are some advertisements that are put on radios, TVs, and newspapers such that everybody can get aware of the importances and the roles of those organisms that are in danger, such that one day, one time, don't get attempted to kill or to cut down those plants that are in danger, right? So there's giving presentation at village gathering. One day, these local leaders can organize or tries to organize some gatherings, some meetings, and through that, you can teach or you can educate the citizens why there is a need to conserve these plants and animals that are in danger, all right? Hope you're getting what we are trying to say. We are emphasizing on education programs that was put forward by the government, specifically the government of Rwanda, to try to conserve these plants and animals that are in danger, all right? There's setting up of interview in local radios and television. There's also posting relevant videos, messages on social media, that is the websites and other channels where everybody can get access and tries to know the reasons why you need to keep these animals and plants safe, all right? So that one is under education program. Remember, we are still looking at why and how the measures that was put up to control the destruction or to conserve these plants and animals that are in danger, all right? That's the second one, education. The third is what we call captive breeding program. The captive breeding program provides a means for conserving species that may not survive in the world. What does it mean? There are some species, there are some organisms, both plants and animals, that cannot survive in the forest, let's say. So they need to gather them, to bring them out, and put them like in the zoo to conserve them from their side that they don't get extinct. So when we look at some of the reasons for captive breeding, there's education, extinction of interesting species. So we conserve. Why do we need to put them in captive breeding? We keep them there for education. Learners need to go there. They need to go there and learn from those species. There is those exhibition. You can go there and get some money from exhibition of those interesting species, and the some researches can be conducted on them. Establishing captive population for saving species from extinction. So these are the reasons why we need to keep them safe. Get them out of the world or get them from the forest and whatever, gather them like in the zoo, then keep them there for those reasons, for education purpose, for research and exhibition, establishing those captive populations for saving those species that are in danger, all right? So like now here, look at the diagram, look at the picture on the screen. Everybody look there. You see the mountain gorilla in Virunga National Park. This is one of the captive breeding that was put up by the government of Rwanda, all right? This one is looking after the gorilla. The gorilla were in extinction a few years back. But these days, they are multiplying now and again. Why? Because the government put measures on how to conserve them. There are strict rules, there are strict laws that are put forward by the government of Rwanda to conserve this one. So we can take that example as the breeding, or that example as the one for controlling these organisms in the national park. All right? The seed bags, the seed bag is a store used to preserve the genetic diversity, and there are uses why. The uses why we need these seed bags as number 4 for conserving these organisms and these plants in danger. One, genes that breed bleeders, increase the yield for disease resistance, drought tolerance, and nutrition quality. They're also used to store seeds in case of genetic diversity. Seed banks also offer a way to preserve historical and cultural value. So in Rwanda, we have the Gishwati forest, where it was set up to preserve some plants that were in danger. So another initiative the Rwanda put up in 2020, that is what we call the 2005 is Kwitizina. So that one is done in Virunga. You see those people there. So that thing also motivates individuals or people there to do it, to conserve the environment. So they do this Kwitizina, which was got after the naming of the children in Rwanda. Therefore, this one also helps as a conservation measure and also gets money for the country, all right? So those are some of the things we can do, the measures we can do to conserve the environment or to conserve plants and animals that are in danger, right? So I think everybody has got what you can do to conserve organisms, to conserve plants and animals that are in danger, all right? So please, you try to attempt those questions when you go back home, and some of those, in fact, all of them, we have looked at them. Why are some species termed as endangered? Why should endangered species be protected? Give the difference between threatened species and endangered species. Threatened species, remember, those are the ones that are heading to endangered species. They're almost getting to endangered species. You need to start protecting them before they go to critical conditions, all right? So thank you so much for today's lesson. Hope everybody here has enjoyed. I wish you the best. Bye.